My name is Joan Suarez. I'm chair of the Missouri Immigrant and Refugee Advocates, an organization coalition statewide with about 42 member organizations. Many of our member organizations are here with me today in the St. Louis area. We're going to be asking in a moment for those who are here this very diversified support for this conference to introduce themselves. Let me say to you right off the bat, we're pleased as punch that the Supreme Court came down taking out almost all of SB 1070, the Arizona law that we find so repugnant. We were saddened that the court did not go one step further and take out 2B of that law, which, in our view, is going to, before it finally is resolved, and we think it will be finally resolved by the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, we'll lead, we're afraid, to a good deal of racial profiling in Arizona. We hope not copycatted in other states, certainly not in the state of Missouri. I said to Post-Dispatch yesterday that I would not want to see Missouri or Arizona vacation would not want to be ever made into Arizona. So at this time, I'd like you to meet the people who are here with me, and I'd like to invite you, after remarks by a few of the folks who are here with me, then to stick around and talk at your leisure to any of the representatives who are here from their organizations to get their point of view. So, starting on my right,
Nancy Witzker, American Jewish Committee. Mariana, and the Interfaith Committee on Latin America.
Mara Maldonado, Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis.
Lou Boy, Coalition for Black Trade.
Tony Rother, the American Civil Liberties Union.
Sharon Pace, State Representative for the 7th District, North County.
Montega Simmons, Chair of the Organization of Black Struggle.
Marilyn Lorenz, the Interfaith Committee of Latin America.
Faison Say, the Executive Director of the South American.
Elise Tovar, with the Hispanic Leadership of Greater St. Louis.
Tim Finch, St. Louis County.
Karen Reinstein, Anti-Immigrant League for Missouri and Senegal.
Julie Turcroft, Missouri Progressive Vote Coalition.
at this time, I'd like to be here from Chief Finch to talk with you a little bit about what he thinks the ramifications of any kind of 2B in Missouri might lead to.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me today. One of the things that I wanted to say right off the bat is local law enforcement, we agree with federal immigration enforcement immigration laws. We believe it should be a federal jurisdiction and immigration type of issues. Right now, the Senate bill that was upheld parts of it in Arizona, it doesn't apply to Missouri. So we don't have a similar law in Missouri today. However, we know that in past legislative sessions there have been proposals very similar to Arizona. And what I'd like to say is in St. Louis County, we don't have an illegal immigration issue in St. Louis County. It doesn't affect us like we're hearing it affects other parts of the country. We have many immigrants in St. Louis County. Just for example, in South County alone, we have over 35 Bosnian Americans that live in South County alone. The problems in St. Louis County aren't with illegal immigrants. Those are the problems that we have in our region. So this would be, if something like this would pass in Missouri, there's a couple questions that come up from our perspective. And I'd like to cover just a few of those. As you know now, the Section 2B that was spoken about earlier, it requires police to attempt to determine the immigration status of any person during traffic stops or other routine encounters if there's a reasonable suspicion to believe the person is unlawfully present in the United States. Now, I can't articulate what reasonable suspicion is for the immigration issue. I can tell you all day long in somebody's case of a bank, getting ready to rob a bank, what reasonable suspicion is. But I can't tell you what reasonable suspicion is for immigration. Does it mean they have dark skin? Does it mean they have an accent? I was speaking with a lady this morning who has dark skin and a very thick accent. In the conversation, I found out she was from Germany. I mean, what are we talking about as far as reasonable suspicion? The court did not lay that out. So that's a huge issue that we have. I will also tell you that nobody respects the rule of law more than law enforcement. But the rule of law in this particular case, we're still scratching our heads trying to figure out if this comes to Missouri, how we'll handle this. The other thing I'd like to tell you is regarding this as well is we believe we've established a great relationship with immigrant communities in the St. Louis area. That if something like this were to happen, we feel that it would hurt and undermine the trust that we've established between immigrant communities. And I'll ask you this. If unfortunately a situation happens in your family, and a loved one is killed, for example, and an immigrant witnesses this crime and witnesses your crime, would you want that immigrant to step forward to law enforcement and share this information and not have a fear that they're going to be deported? That's the relationship that we've established with law enforcement and the immigrant community in St. Louis. We want that to continue. Clearly, we have our hands full in St. Louis just fighting violent crime. We do not want to take our officers off the street to do federal immigration. That's what I know today. We have to answer any questions on this end of this.
Thank you very much. MIRA has partnered with Welcoming America now for the past 2 years. We have, in fact, a Welcoming Missouri initiative. Chief Fish has put it very succinctly when he said that federal law is the rule for immigration. Preemption is where the court came down. And we believe that leads now, hopefully, to comprehensive immigration reform. But even if the laws are finally fixed, in our view, we're going to find that we have a whole integration issue to deal with. And that is to be sure that the immigrants that Chief Hitch is talking about in South County feel welcome, that they feel a part of the community, that we are, in fact, neighbor talking to neighbor. And that's an initiative that MIRA is now working on in cooperation with many of the folks who are standing here with me this morning, and that we think has the potential for turning Missouri into a welcoming state. I'd like to call now on Lou Boy, who is with the Coalition of Black Trade Unions, to tell you a little bit about his experience in Alabama.
On November the 16th in 2011, a group of African American labor leaders traveled to the state of Alabama to review the impact of House Bill 56, America's harshest new anti-immigrant law. The delegation was profoundly affected by what they seen and heard. The humanitarian crisis they observed were likened to the days of racial prejudice and Jim Crow in the Deep South. The delegation concluded that House Bill 56 is a part of a broad agenda to deny workers their basic rights. The American Legislative Exchange Council is the source of these laws. They are also the source of the laws that put unions that suppress voters in minority communities, and also lower taxes on the wealthy 1%. So today we say that despite the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling to authorize racial profiling in Arizona, we are here today to say we are one. We will not be pitted against each other. We will unite our voices in the legislature and our votes at the polls. We will continue to oppose any racial profiling of African Americans in this state. We will also oppose any attempt to implement a law for racial profiling in the state of Missouri. We join with our Latino brothers and sisters in opposition to these and all similar kinds of laws. Thank you.
Down to Alabama, I think twice in the months that have just passed in order to show support down there. And it's really welcome to hear that kind of support coming as we go forward in Missouri. I'd like you now to hear from Karen Arrested, who's the executive director of DNL. Karen?
Thanks, Joan. Good morning. The real question is, what do you take take away from this decision. It's clearly a mixed bag, and yet we need to do something with it. Chief Fish has talked about what law enforcement guidance has to be in place in order for law enforcement to do their job well. The phrase you've heard more than any other this morning is racial profiling. We say bias-based policing. Racial profiling, criminal profiling is something police do as a part of their job. On occasion, race and ethnic background are going to come into those profiles legitimately. What we're trying to fight against is bias in policing. And that's, at the root of what this case really addressed. So with this, in the cases that are going to follow it, because I think the 1070 decision opened the door to statewide and local litigation on this issue. This is what we're going to do as a community. I think we have an obligation to talk about serious immigration reform, but not do it by pointing fingers at people who we think are to blame. That's not what fixing the problem is all about. So I think we look forward to working in community, both with police and with all the different advocates around me. We've convened a group called the Roundtable on Bias-Based Policing. We're going to look at Missouri's local profiling statute and see what changes we can make to make it more effective. But to do it as part of a partnership. Because just simply saying that a group of people are wrong and demonizing them for being here for all the right reasons is not worth it. Thank you.
Karen, thank you. Immigration's been big news in Missouri this entire last couple of weeks. The economic impact of immigration hit the front page of our Post-Dispatch this week, and many of you covered the stories that came from the release of the report on the economic impact of immigrants. I'd like now, and many of us have been involved in the discussions that led up to that report being done and given out to the public. Now the question is will it be followed up and what kind of follow-up will it be? Part of the group that came together to really encourage that report was the Hispanic Leaders Group. And I'd like now to hear from Mark Maldonado representing the St. Louis Hispanic Leaders Group.
First, I'd like to thank you all for being out here today. I'd also like to applaud the Missouri Court for knocking down 3 of those 4 key elements of SB 1070. Sadly, that last piece is really the one that's a cause for concern because it opens up potential bias policing. And like Chief Fitch said earlier, what does that mean? How does that impact our community? You can look behind me and see just a small sample of the people that live here in St. Louis. How are you able to make that decision and say, who is here illegally? Who is an immigrant that is not documented? This is a situation that can open up Pandora's box. And one of the other things, not only do we want to strengthen our community like we spoke about earlier with the people that are living here, but we also want to protect the rights of the people that are living here. And we don't want to infringe upon those rights when it comes to a situation of driving down the street, getting pulled over for a particular ticket, and then being a potential opening of all these different questions of where's your green card, where's your documentation, and these type of things, where I, being Puerto Rican Hispanic, at first glance may look like I am one of the people that they are targeting with this bill. However, I am a U.S. citizen. So these are the things that we want to be very careful of, and we want to make sure that we go back and say to Congress, what do we need to make sure that we have comprehensive immigration reform?
Thank you very much. I'm going to open up now for questions. If you have any for folks who've spoken, if you would care to stay and interview individuals, you're perfectly welcome to do that. Are there questions?